Hi everybody. Today we're going to be talking about the properties of quadratics. In a previous video I did, it was Introduction to Parabolas. Make sure if you haven't watched that video, go on my YouTube page, elli.mathchs, and check out that video, Introduction to Parabolas. Today I'm going to be discussing this worksheet, okay, and everything you need to know to be able to complete it. This was in Schoology Monday, but the assignment is actually going, I guess, live on Wednesday, even though you can access it whenever. This is what we're going to be talking about. I have up here a parabola drawn. It's not one on here. It's just an extra one to give you guys some notes. And I've already put up on the board the different things that we're going to be taking from here. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started. We have the vertex, all right? In any parabola, there is a vertex. Remember, the vertex is where the two sides come together. So the left and the right sides come together and they come right here. This is the vertex. And remember, the vertex is a coordinate point, an ordered pair, an x and a y. So this vertex is at 2, -3. So right there. 2, -3. So on your paper, next to your graph, when you have your own graph, for A, you would write the ordered pair, okay? So this would be an example for A for an ordered pair. All right, the next one we're gonna talk about is range, okay? Range is all the Y values, okay? All values of Y. So when we talk about range, think about that Y axis. Right? We're going to be climbing this y-axis to see when do we first hit a value for y for that function. Well, right here, there's nothing, all of a sudden at -3, there is a value. So it starts at -3. This is, I'll put range start at -3, and it continues all the way until, does it stop at 7? It appears to, but here's the thing. It has arrows. The arrows tell us that it keeps going for infinity, okay? So the range really is going to go on for forever. So this is going to be a range. Y is greater than, it's everything above, -3. Now it is equal to it because it is actually touching that -3 spot right there, okay? So just be mindful. If it's an upward facing parabola, a positive parabola, it's going to be greater than. If it were to be, let's say, a negative parabola, this would be y is less than or equal to -3 because it's negative. It's everything below that certain value, everything less than. Now notice the range ties into the vertex. It's the y value of the vertex, okay? So here for the range, we're going to put y is greater than or equal to -3. Okay, so there's that. All right, next, we're going to talk about the y-intercepts. Okay, the y-intercept is where the graph is going to cross the y-axis. Now, there's only going to ever be one y-intercept because this isn't going to curve back on itself. It's not going to cross again. And sometimes you won't be able to see a y-intercept. For example, this one on your graph, you can't see it here. We know it's going to cross the y-axis eventually. As this continues down, it's going to go wider and wider. It will cross, but we can't see it. So just write on C, you would just write not shown. Okay, same with this one. You could guesstimate, but you can just write not shown. Here, obvious y-intercept. Obvious y-intercept. Okay, so some of them, most of them, let's see, 4 out of the 6 you can see. The other 2, just write not shown. Okay, so for our y-intercept on our graph, let's go ahead and take a look. It is crossing, not a pretty spot, huh? Ooh, that marker's dead. All right, let's try a different one. It's crossing right at like maybe 1.5, okay? Just do your best to guesstimate. We will get into the exactness of it later, but right now we're just looking at, do we know what a y-intercept is? Can we pick it out on a graph? Remember, the y-intercept, where it crosses the y-axis. So in our case, it's going to be at 0 for the x value, right? X hasn't moved left or right, and negative 1.5, okay? Or we could also say y equals negative 1.5. All right, so there's the y-intercept. Okay, next, the line of axis or line of symmetry or axis of symmetry. All right, you'll hear it said both ways, and that's fine. We can talk about it either way. So let's talk about I'm trying to get a good color here. Let's talk about that. Remember, the vertex and the axis of symmetry play a part with one another. The axis of symmetry is the x value of the vertex. Okay, axis of symmetry. We'll put x value of vertex. Well, what's the x value of this vertex? 2. Yep. So if we were to draw this axis of symmetry, we drew that straight down the middle of the parabola, and it would go right down the middle, cut the vertex in half, and we'd be able to fold that parabola over on itself, and it would be a perfect mirror image. Okay, so here we go. It's at 2. So what we say for this is x equals 2. That's the axis of symmetry. Okay, on your paper, it asks you to draw the axis of symmetry. Now, using your Microsoft Word drawing tool, you could insert a line, and you would just want to make it right over the x value of the vertex. Okay, so I expect to see that on your papers. All right, that'll be good. Okay, next, our last one, E, is it a max or a min? Okay, well, what does that mean? Is it a max or a min? This is in regards to what we're talking about, the vertex. Okay, is the vertex a maximum or a minimum point? The vertex can also be known as a maximum or minimum point, or a turning point. Okay, so it's at the bottom of the vertex, or it's at the bottom of the parabola. So this is a minimum. Okay, if we were talking about this parabola right here, this orange dashed one, this would have a maximum point because the vertex would be at the very top, right? Think about it. Is it a mountain or is it a valley? If it's a valley, that point right at the bottom, that's going to be the lowest point that you can get to, a minimum, right? If you're talking about a mountain, the vertex is the very top, the apex, right? The summit of the mountain, right at the top. Can't go any higher. It's the maximum. Okay, so a couple other things the paper is going to ask you to do. It says circle the zeros of the function. What are the zeros? The zeros are also referred to as the roots or the x-intercepts. Okay, so zeros are the x-intercepts. So where is it crossing the x-axis? Well, in this case, they're at -1 and 5. I'm not putting parentheses around that because that's a list of numbers. It's not a coordinate point. It's not an ordered pair. All right, and for your purposes on the sheet, all it says is to circle the zeros of the function. So using your Microsoft Word drawing tool, you could put just a circle. You could draw a circle right over on your paper where it's crossing the x-axis. Okay, now look. This example here, it's not going to touch the x-axis, is it? All right, so this for y-intercept is a not shown. You wouldn't put not shown here because it is showing, it's just not going to happen. So for this, you would write nothing. There's nothing to write. It is not going to touch the x-axis. So what would you circle there? You would circle nothing. Okay, sometimes they can touch once. All right, this one is touching the x-axis once, so you'd have one circle. But most of the times it's going to cross twice. You're going to look to see where they're crossing the x-axis. Okay, this one is none. It can happen 0 times, 1 time, or 2 times where it crosses the x-axis, and those are called the zeros of the function. All right, then the last thing it says is to highlight the increasing and decreasing intervals in different colors. So just use your highlighting tool, and you can just mark one side. It can be a straight line. You don't have to go along the edge. But that's going to be something that you're going to want to pay close attention to. So if I'm going to highlight increasing and decreasing, so I'm going to do myself a favor. For you guys, I would type out in a certain font color, maybe, right? Pink is what I'm going to use for increasing. So I'm going to make note of that. And for decreasing, I'm going to use orange. So I'm making note of that in pink and orange. All right. You don't have to type out pink is decreasing, or I'm sorry, pink is increasing, because I wrote it in pink, so I can figure it out. Okay. So increasing and decreasing. All right. Think about it. If I'm a skateboarder, right? And I start going towards, here's my hair. If I start going towards my ramp, the first thing I'm going to do, am I going to have to rise or fall, right? As I go, the first movement is down. So this is going to be a decreasing interval at first. So I'm going to highlight this, decreasing in orange, right? And then once I get to the vertex, that's the turning point. Remember, it turns and goes the other way. So I'm going to start increasing, and I'm going to highlight that in pink to show that I know what increasing and decreasing is. Okay. So there is the board, and that's the assignment.